I chose the gray cardigan that Tuesday. The one that made me blend into the office furniture like camouflage for the overlooked. It was supposed to be our quarterly innovation showcase lunch, where the engineering team presented breakthrough ideas to management. I'd been working nights for 3 months on something that could change everything. I'd love to know which corner of the globe you're watching from. And if this story speaks to you, make sure to subscribe. Tomorrow's video is one you absolutely can't miss. The conference room smelled like catered sandwiches and stale ambition. Marcus Chen, our VP of Product Development, sat at the head of the mahogany table, scrolling through his phone between bites of turkey club. Next to him was Jennifer Walsh, the innovation director who'd never innovated anything beyond new ways to schedule meetings. "All right, team," Marcus announced, barely looking up. "Let's see what game-changing ideas you've brought today." He gestured vaguely at the presentation screen. "Remember, we need disruptive thinking, not incremental improvements." David Kim from Senior Engineering went first. His voice carried the confidence of someone who'd never been questioned. "I'm proposing we optimize our current data processing algorithms by 15%. The slides were polished, corporate clean, safe. Marcus nodded approvingly. "Solid foundation work, David. That's the kind of systematic thinking we need." Jennifer scribbled notes like she was documenting the next Nobel Prize. Then came Rachel Torres from the UX team. She presented a user interface redesign that looked remarkably similar to our competitor's latest release. "Market-tested approaches," she called it. The room murmured appreciation. I raised my hand. The conversation paused like a record skip. "I'd like to present something different," I said, standing slowly. My folder contained 3 months of late-night sketches, proof of concept code, and prototype specifications for a predictive maintenance system that could revolutionize how manufacturing equipment prevents failures. The room went quiet, but not the good kind. The kind that makes you realize you've interrupted something you weren't invited to join. Marcus finally looked up from his sandwich. "Sophia, right? From Quality Assurance?" His tone carried the weight of someone placing me in a box marked support staff. "I appreciate the enthusiasm, but we're focusing on strategic initiatives today. QA feedback is valuable, but innovation requires a different mindset." I opened my mouth to explain, but Jennifer jumped in. "Maybe save this for the monthly process improvement meeting? That might be more appropriate for your area of expertise." The words hung in the air like smoke. I felt my cheeks warm, not from embarrassment, but from recognition. I'd seen this moment before, felt it coming like storm clouds gathering. I sat back down, closed my folder, and watched the rest of the presentations with new eyes. Marcus spent 20 minutes praising David's incremental algorithm tweaks. He called Rachel's copycat design inspired market alignment. But when the intern, Tyler, suggested adding a simple notification feature everyone had been requesting for months, Marcus lit up. "Now that's innovative thinking," Marcus exclaimed, pointing at Tyler like he'd just discovered fire. "Fresh perspective, outside-the-box solutions. This is what we need more of." I watched Tyler beam, watched the room nod in agreement over an idea I'd submitted in writing 6 months ago through the proper suggestion channels. The idea that had been filed under future considerations and forgotten until a 22-year-old said it out loud. After the presentations, Marcus stood up, brushing crumbs from his designer shirt. "Great session, everyone. Remember, innovation isn't about working harder, it's about thinking differently." His eyes swept the room, pausing on me for just a moment. "Some people are naturally innovative. Others, well, they provide valuable support in their own way." The room began to disperse. I packed my folder slowly, methodically, like I was handling evidence. Jennifer approached my chair, her voice pitched low and maternal. "Sophia, I want you to know we really value your contributions to quality control. That's so important for maintaining our standards." She touched my shoulder with practiced sympathy. "But innovation, true innovation, requires a certain creative spark. It's not something you can learn from manuals or processes." I nodded politely, the way you nod at weather predictions you know are wrong. "Of course," I said. "I understand completely." But I didn't understand. What I understood was different. I understood that Marcus had never spent a weekend debugging code that prevented million-dollar equipment failures. I understood that Jennifer had never traced a system crash back to its root cause at 3 a.m. while production lines waited. I understood that Tyler's innovative notification idea would require exactly the kind of back-end architecture I'd been building in secret. That evening, I sat in my Honda Civic in the company parking lot, watching the building empty. The overhead lights clicked off floor by floor until only the security desk glowed in the lobby. My reflection stared back from the windshield, same face, same eyes, but something had shifted behind them. I pulled out my phone and opened the voice memo app. Tuesday, October 15th, I began, my voice steady in the quiet car. Innovation. Showcase lunch. Key observations: Marcus values presentation over substance. Jennifer confuses support with limitation. Tyler gets credit for recycled ideas. I paused, watching a janitor push a cart past the windows. They don't see innovation. They see hierarchy. I drove home to my small apartment, the one with the dining room table covered in circuit boards and the coffee table stacked with patent application research. My laptop sat open on the kitchen counter, displaying lines of code that had kept me awake for months. Not because I had to write them, but because I couldn't stop myself. The predictive maintenance algorithm wasn't just an idea. It was running. I'd tested it on simulated data, refined it through hundreds of iterations, proven it could predict equipment failures 72 hours before they occurred with 94% accuracy. The prototype existed in my spare bedroom, built from components I'd bought with my own money and assembled during weekends that felt more alive than any workday. I opened a new document on my laptop and typed 4 words at the top. They made a mistake. The patent examination process, I learned, takes an average of 18 months. 18 months of waiting while a USPTO examiner reviews your claims, searches for prior art, and decides whether your idea qualifies as a genuine invention. 18 months of carrying a secret that grows heavier with each passing day. I didn't wait passively. I refined the algorithm, expanded the prototype, and documented every improvement. My spare bedroom became a laboratory, my evenings became research sessions, my weekends became proof of concept development time. The next morning arrived gray and ordinary. I wore the same cardigan, carried the same folder, walked past the same security guard who never looked up. But I didn't go to my cubicle in quality assurance. Instead, I took the elevator to the basement, to the archives where old project files went to die. I needed to understand something. If Marcus and Jennifer valued innovation so highly, where was it? What had this company actually created in the past 5 years that qualified as breakthrough thinking? The archive room smelled like dust and forgotten ambitions. Box after box of strategic initiatives that had been approved, funded, and quietly shelved when they failed to deliver. David's algorithm optimizations from 2 years ago, implemented but showing no measurable improvement. Rachel's previous UI redesigns, rolled back after user complaints. Tyler's earlier suggestions, buried under bureaucratic review processes. But in the corner, under a layer of procurement documents, I found something interesting. Patent applications. Dozens of them, filed by the company but never approved. Ideas that had been submitted by employees, reviewed by legal, and abandoned when the USPTO raised questions about originality or technical feasibility. A lot of love and effort went into bringing this story to life. If you're enjoying it, we'd be so grateful if you'd subscribe to our channel. Now, back to where we left off. I photographed the filing numbers with my phone and spent my lunch break in my car, researching each one online. Patent after patent had been rejected for the same reasons: insufficient technical innovation, obvious modifications of existing systems, failure to demonstrate genuine advancement over prior art. This company that prized innovation so highly hadn't successfully patented a single original idea in 8 years. That night, I opened my laptop and navigated to the USPTO patent search database. I'd been here before, researching the landscape around predictive maintenance systems, making sure my approach was genuinely novel. But tonight, I searched differently. I looked up every major patent in my field, traced the technology evolution, mapped the white spaces where no one had claimed territory. My algorithm wasn't just different, it was genuinely unprecedented. The neural network architecture I'd developed didn't exist in any prior art. The sensor integration methodology was mine alone. The predictive accuracy metrics exceeded anything in published literature. I pulled up the patent application I'd been drafting for months. 67 pages of technical specifications, claims, and diagrams. Written in my own time, developed with my own resources, proven with my own prototypes. The filing fee would cost me a month of grocery money, but I'd been saving. At the top of the application, in the inventor field, I typed my name, Sophia Anderson, not the company. Not Marcus Chen. Not Jennifer Walsh. Just me. Wednesday morning brought another innovation meeting. This one was smaller, just the senior engineering team plus Marcus and Jennifer. I wasn't invited, but I could see them through the glass conference room wall from my desk. They were discussing the quarterly innovation budget, $50,000 to fund breakthrough initiatives. I watched David present the same algorithm optimization he'd been refining for 3 years. I watched Rachel pitch another UI redesign based on competitor analysis. I watched Marcus nod approvingly at ideas that wouldn't move the company forward by a single step. After the meeting, Tyler approached my cubicle, notepad in hand. "Hey Sophia, I need some help understanding the back-end requirements for that notification system Marcus wants me to develop. I looked at him, earnest, well-meaning, completely unaware that he was asking me to explain how to implement an idea I'd originated. Sure, I said, pulling up a basic system diagram. What specifically do you need to know? For 20 minutes, I walked him through database integration, API endpoints, user authentication protocols. Tyler scribbled notes like he was learning a foreign language. Which, in a way, he was. When I finished, he stared at his notebook with a mixture of gratitude and confusion. This is really complex, he said. I thought it would just be like adding a button or something. Innovation usually is complex, I replied. The simple-looking solutions are often the result of solving hundreds of complex problems behind the scenes. He left looking overwhelmed. I turned back to my computer and opened a private browser window. The USPTO website loaded, and I navigated to the patent application portal. My finger hovered over the Submit Application button. The filing fee confirmation screen showed $1,600. Enough to hurt, not enough to stop me. I thought about Marcus's words: some people are naturally innovative. Others provide valuable support. I clicked Submit. The confirmation email arrived in my inbox 15 minutes later. Patent application #18 745 629, predictive maintenance. System using advanced neural network architecture has been received and is under review. I printed the confirmation, folded it carefully, and slipped it into my wallet behind my driver's license. Then I returned to debugging the quality control reports that no one else knew how to fix. The first office action came 8 months after filing. The examiner had found several pieces of prior art that were similar in scope to my invention. I had 30 days to respond, to prove that my approach was genuinely novel, not just a minor modification of existing systems. I spent those 30 days like a lawyer preparing for trial. I analyzed every cited patent, identified the technical differences, wrote detailed responses explaining why my neural network architecture was fundamentally different from anything that had come before. The response document grew to 43 pages. At work, nothing changed and everything changed. I continued fixing quality control reports, attending meetings where I wasn't invited to speak, watching other people receive credit for ideas that originated from my documentation. But now I carried something they didn't know about: proof that innovation wasn't just about thinking differently. It was about thinking correctly. Marcus launched a new initiative called Innovation Fridays, where employees could spend 20% of their time on creative projects. The program generated enthusiasm and 0 patents. Tyler used his Innovation Friday time to research the notification system that was still awaiting back-end implementation. David optimized algorithms that were already running at maximum efficiency. Rachel redesigned interfaces that users had specifically said they liked. I used my Innovation Friday time to research patent law, study intellectual property strategy, and understand how breakthrough technologies actually make it to market. Not through corporate innovation programs or brainstorming sessions, but through individual inventors who understood that ideas without execution are just conversations. The second office action arrived in month 14. The examiner had found additional prior art, but this time, something was different. Instead of rejecting my claims outright, she was asking for clarification. She wanted me to explain exactly how my approach differed from a specific competitor's patent filed 2 years earlier. I read that competitor patent 3 times before I understood what was happening. Their system predicted equipment failures using traditional machine learning algorithms applied to sensor data. My system used a novel neural network architecture that processed not just sensor data, but historical maintenance records, environmental conditions, and operator behavior patterns simultaneously. The competitor's system achieved 67% accuracy. Mine achieved 94%. It wasn't just different, it was demonstrably superior. My response to the second office action included performance comparisons, architectural diagrams, and test results that I'd generated over months of prototype development. I explained not just what my system did, but why it worked better than anything that existed before. 3 months later, the phone call came on a Tuesday morning while I was reviewing quality control reports. The caller ID showed a Washington, D.C. area code. Ms. Anderson? This is Patent Examiner Sarah Liu from the USPTO. I'm calling regarding application 18,745,629. My heart stopped. Patent examiners don't call with rejections. They send those by mail. I'm pleased to inform you that your patent application has been approved. You should receive the official notice of allowance within the week. I sat in my cubicle, phone pressed to my ear, listening to her explain filing fees and publication timelines while my hands trembled like I'd been running 18 months of work, of doubt, of carrying a secret that felt too large for my chest. It was over. Congratulations, Ms. Anderson. Your invention represents a significant advancement in predictive maintenance technology. We expect it will generate considerable interest in the industry. After she hung up, I stared at my computer screen where a quality control report waited for debugging. The same kind of report I'd been fixing for 3 years while Marcus and Jennifer discussed innovation they'd never created. The irony felt less bitter now. It felt like fuel. The official notice of allowance arrived on Friday, along with a letter from a patent attorney I'd never contacted. Tech companies had been monitoring USPTO databases for emerging patents in their field. 3 of them were already interested in licensing discussions. I read the letter twice, then folded it carefully and placed it in my desk drawer, next to the original patent confirmation I'd been carrying for 18 months. The weight in my chest had transformed into something else. Not secrecy, but strategy. That weekend, I created a presentation. Not the corporate template slides that Marcus preferred, but a technical deep dive that explained exactly what I'd invented and why it mattered. 67 slides covering market opportunity, competitive analysis, technical specifications, performance metrics, and implementation roadmap. The final slide showed a single line of text, patent hashtag 11-234-567, Sophia Anderson, inventor. Tuesday arrived cold and clear, the kind of morning that makes decisions feel inevitable. I chose the navy blazer this time, the one I'd bought but never worn to work. It made me look like someone who owned things that mattered. I carried a leather portfolio instead of a manila folder, and inside it, 67 slides that would change everything. The Innovation Showcase lunch was in the same conference room where Marcus had dismissed me 18 months ago. Same mahogany table, same catered sandwiches, same smell of ambition and toner. But the cast had shifted. Tyler had been promoted to senior developer based on his notification system concept. Rachel was now lead UX strategist. David had added innovation lead to his title. Marcus entered precisely at noon, carrying the same "teamwork makes the dream work" mug, followed by Jennifer and 2 executives I recognized but had never spoken with, CFO Patricia Webb and CTO Michael Rodriguez. The presence of C-level executives meant this wasn't just a quarterly review. This was a budget meeting disguised as innovation theater. "All right, team," Marcus announced, settling into his chair with practiced authority. "Let's see what breakthrough thinking you've brought us this quarter. Remember, we're looking for ideas that will position us as industry leaders, not followers." David presented first. His slides were polished, his delivery confident, his content identical to the algorithm optimization he'd been refining for 4 years. The numbers looked impressive until you realized they represented theoretical improvements that had never been successfully implemented. Marcus nodded approvingly. This is exactly the kind of systematic innovation that builds competitive advantages. Incremental excellence that compounds over time. Rachel followed with a UI redesign based on user feedback that had been submitted through official channels 2 years ago. She'd repackaged the suggestions as human-centered design thinking and added mock-ups that looked like every other enterprise software interface released in the past decade. "Market-validated innovation," Jennifer commented, scribbling notes. "This demonstrates real user empathy." Tyler's notification system came next, the idea I'd originated and he'd been struggling to implement for months. His slides focused on user benefits and business value, carefully avoiding technical architecture details. Smart presentation strategy for a concept that existed primarily in PowerPoint. Marcus leaned forward with genuine enthusiasm. "Now this is disruptive thinking. Simple, elegant, user-focused. This is what happens when we empower fresh perspectives to challenge conventional approaches." CTO Rodriguez asked the question I'd been waiting for. "What's the implementation timeline, Tyler?" Tyler's confidence wavered slightly. "Well, the back-end requirements are more complex than initially anticipated. We'll need additional database architecture, real-time processing capabilities, security protocols." He glanced toward me, then back at Rodriguez. "Probably 6 to 9 months for full deployment. For a notification system?" Patricia Webb's financial background made her skeptical of inflated timelines. "What's driving that complexity?" The room went quiet. Tyler stared at his notes like they might contain the answer. Marcus cleared his throat, preparing to redirect the conversation, but I raised my hand. "I can explain the technical challenges," I said. Marcus's expression shifted from surprise to mild annoyance. "Sophia, I appreciate your quality assurance perspective, but we're discussing strategic innovation here." "Actually," I replied, opening my portfolio, "I'm discussing intellectual property." The words hung in the air like smoke from an electrical fire. Patricia Webb looked up from her tablet. Michael Rodriguez set down his sandwich. Jennifer's pen stopped moving across her notepad. I connected my laptop to the presentation screen and opened the first slide. The title appeared in clean, professional font, Predictive Maintenance Innovation, from Concept to Patent. Marcus frowned. Sophia, this isn't the time for patent #11-234-567, I continued, advancing to the next slide, was published in the USPTO database this morning. Predictive Maintenance System using Advanced Neural Network Architecture. Sole inventor, Sophia Anderson. The silence was different this time. Not the polite pause of people waiting for their turn to speak, but the heavy quiet of people realizing they'd missed something important. Michael Rodriguez leaned forward, studying the screen with the focused attention of someone who understood what patents meant. You filed a patent application? Jennifer asked, her voice carrying a note of confusion. When? Why weren't we informed? 18 months ago, I replied. The same week you told me that innovation required a creative spark that couldn't be learned from manuals or processes. I clicked to the next slide, a technical diagram of my neural network architecture, annotated with performance metrics that exceeded anything in published literature. This system predicts equipment failures 72 hours in advance with 94% accuracy. Current industry standards achieve 67% accuracy with 24-hour lead time. Patricia Webb was taking notes now. What's the market opportunity? I advanced to my competitive analysis slide. Predictive maintenance represents a $12 billion market growing at 28% annually. My system's performance metrics position it as a Category 1 breakthrough technology. Marcus found his voice. Sophia, this is impressive work, but you developed this on company time using company resources. Any intellectual property would belong to. I developed this entirely on personal time using personal resources, I interrupted, clicking to a slide titled Development Timeline and Resources. Filed on my own, funded with personal savings, tested using equipment I purchased and assembled in my home laboratory. The timeline showed 18 months of evening and weekend work, patent application fees paid from my personal account, prototype components purchased with my own credit card. Michael Rodriguez spoke up. Have you received any licensing inquiries? I clicked to the next slide. A list of companies that had contacted me since the patent publication: 3 manufacturing giants, 2 technology licensing firms, 1 venture capital fund. Initial licensing discussions are scheduled for next week. The room was completely quiet now. No sandwich chewing, no tablet tapping, no casual side conversations. Just 5 executives staring at a quality assurance analyst who'd accomplished something none of them had managed in their collective careers. This is what innovation actually looks like, I continued, advancing to a slide showing my patent claims compared to our company's rejected applications. Not brainstorming sessions or process improvements, but genuine technological advancement that passes USPTO scrutiny and creates defensible intellectual property. Marcus cleared his throat. Well, this is certainly unexpected. But let's focus on team initiatives that align with our strategic objectives. Let me ask a question, I said, clicking to my final slide. It showed a simple comparison: USPTO patent applications by employee, 2019 to 2024. The chart had 2 bars. Company employees, 23 applications, 0 approvals. Sophia Anderson, 1 application, 1 approval. In 8 years of innovation showcase lunches, quarterly brainstorming sessions, and Innovation Friday programs, how many patents has this company successfully obtained? Marcus shifted in his chair. Jennifer studied her notepad like it contained classified information. David suddenly found his algorithm optimization slides fascinating. Patent applications are just one measure of innovation, Jennifer said diplomatically. We focus on practical solutions that drive immediate business value. Tyler's notification system, I replied, requires the exact same back-end architecture as my predictive maintenance system. Database integration, real-time processing, security, protocols, scalability considerations. The technical challenges he described aren't implementation barriers, they're the core innovations that make the system valuable. I clicked back to Tyler's timeline estimate. 6 to 9 months for full deployment. Not because the idea is complicated, but because building genuinely innovative systems requires expertise that goes beyond having ideas. Patricia Webb closed her tablet and looked directly at me. What are you proposing, Sophia? I'd been waiting for this question for 18 months. 3 options. First, I can license my patent to competitors and watch them gain technological advantages over us. Second, I can leave the company and commercialize the technology independently. Third, we can discuss internal licensing terms that let this company benefit from breakthrough innovation it didn't know it already owned. The silence stretched long enough for everyone to understand what was happening. This wasn't a presentation about innovation. This was a negotiation where I held the only card that mattered, actual intellectual property. Marcus tried to regain control. Sophia, I appreciate your initiative. But major business decisions require executive review, legal analysis, strategic planning. I agree completely, I said, closing my laptop. My patent attorney suggests licensing discussions should include technical due diligence, market analysis, and competitive positioning assessment. Shall we schedule a follow-up meeting where legal and business development teams can participate? Michael Rodriguez answered before Marcus could speak. Yes. Patricia, can you coordinate with legal to set up a proper IP review? I want a full technical assessment and market opportunity analysis. He looked at me directly. Sophia, would Thursday afternoon work for a comprehensive discussion? Thursday works perfectly, I replied. I'll bring my technical documentation, market research, and licensing proposals. As the room began to disperse, Tyler approached me with a question I'd been expecting. Sophia, when you helped me understand the back-end requirements for the notification system, did you already know this stuff because of your patent work? Tyler, I said, packing my portfolio carefully, the notification system you've been trying to implement? It's already working. It's been running in my home lab for 6 months. His eyes widened. You built it? I built something better, I replied. A system that doesn't just send notifications, but predicts what the notifications should say before the problems occur. Tyler stood there processing this information while I walked toward the door. Jennifer caught up to me in the hallway, her expression somewhere between corporate diplomacy and genuine confusion. Sophia, I have to ask, why didn't you tell us about this earlier? We could have supported your work, provided resources, made this a company initiative. I paused at the elevator, considering my response. Jennifer, 18 months ago, you told me that innovation required a creative spark that couldn't be learned. You suggested I save my ideas for process improvement meetings. You said some people are naturally innovative, and others provide valuable support. The elevator doors opened. I stepped inside and turned to face her. It turns out you were right. Some people are naturally innovative. They file patents, create intellectual property, and build systems that actually work. Others schedule meetings to talk about innovation they'll never create. The doors closed, leaving Jennifer standing alone in the hallway. 3 weeks later, I signed a licensing agreement that made me the company's first official patent holder and the lead architect for a new predictive maintenance division. My title changed from Quality Assurance Analyst to Director of Innovation Technology. My salary increased by 85%. Marcus Chen left the company 2 months later to pursue new opportunities in innovation consulting. Jennifer Walsh was reassigned to project management, where her meeting scheduling skills were considered more appropriate. Tyler became my first direct report. Turns out, when you give someone proper technical mentorship instead of dismissing their questions, they learn fast. The notification system was fully deployed within 6 weeks. Last month, I received my second patent approval. This one for an automated quality assurance system that reduces testing time by 73%. I'm working on 3 more applications. The innovation showcase lunches still happen quarterly. Now I run them. We don't serve sandwiches anymore. We serve results. The spare bedroom that became my laboratory started as storage space for furniture I couldn't fit anywhere else. But by month 3 of patent development, it looked like a tech startup's prototype room. Circuit boards covered every surface, connected by cables that snaked across the floor like electronic vines. My neighbors probably thought I was crazy. Mrs. Peterson next door asked if I was building robots when she saw me carrying in another box of sensors from my car. I told her it was a hobby project. She seemed satisfied with that explanation, though she started closing her blinds when I worked late with all the LED indicators blinking through my windows. The breakthrough moment came at 2:47 a.m. on a Wednesday. I'd been testing the neural network on a dataset of industrial pump failures, and suddenly the prediction accuracy jumped from 73% to 91%. I stared at the screen for 10 minutes, convinced I'd made an error somewhere. But the math was solid. The algorithm had learned something about vibration patterns that even the equipment manufacturers didn't understand. I called in sick the next day and spent 14 hours documenting everything. By the time I finally collapsed into bed, I had 43 pages of test results that proved my system could predict failures that traditional sensors couldn't detect until it was too late. The law office smelled like leather and old money. Sarah Kim, patent attorney, sat across from me at a conference table that probably cost more than my car. She'd already spent an hour reviewing my application, occasionally making notes in precise handwriting. Ms. Anderson, she said, looking up from the technical diagrams, in 15 years of patent law, I've seen a lot of inventors walk through that door. Most of them have ideas. You have intellectual property. She explained the difference while I sipped coffee from China that felt too delicate for my hands. Ideas are conversations. Intellectual property is legal territory that you own, defend, and monetize. My neural network architecture wasn't just novel, it was commercially viable, technically superior, and legally defensible. The market opportunity alone, she continued, flipping to my competitive analysis, positions this for licensing deals in the high six figures. Maybe 7, if you play it right. I'd walked into that office as a quality assurance analyst with savings I'd scraped together for patent fees. I walked out understanding that I'd accidentally built something worth more than my annual salary. What surprised me most during those 18 months wasn't the patent process or the technical challenges. It was discovering how many other people were doing exactly what I was doing, building real innovations in their spare time while their employers talked about innovation they'd never create. I found them in online forums, maker spaces, and weekend workshops. Engineers who'd patented manufacturing improvements their companies had rejected. Developers who'd built software solutions their managers couldn't understand. Scientists who'd made breakthrough discoveries during personal research time. And there was Maria Santos, a chemical engineer who'd developed a new catalyst while her company focused on quarterly cost reductions. Her patent was acquired by a competitor for $2.30 million. There was James Chen, a software architect who'd created a security protocol his IT department said was too complex for our needs. 3 cybersecurity firms were bidding for licensing rights. We started meeting monthly at a coffee shop downtown. Not to complain about our jobs, but to share strategies for protecting intellectual property we'd developed independently. We called ourselves the Ghost Innovation Network, people creating breakthrough technologies that their employers didn't know existed. The morning patent #11-234-567 was published. My phone started ringing at 6:15 a.m. The first call was from TechFlow Industries, wanting to discuss licensing terms. The second was from Industrial Dynamics, asking about acquisition possibilities. By noon, I had 7 voicemails from companies I'd never heard of, but the call that mattered came from Michael Rodriguez at 3:30 p.m. Not the CTO asking about my patent, Michael the person, calling from his personal phone. Sophia, he said, his voice different from the corporate executive I'd seen in meetings, I need to ask you something off the record. How many other employees do you think are working on innovations we don't know about? The question hung in the air. I thought about Maria's catalyst, James's security protocol, the Ghost Innovation Network meeting in coffee shops while their employers scheduled brainstorming sessions about ideas they'd never implement. More than you think, I replied. And fewer than you'd want. That conversation led to the patent review meeting. But more importantly, it led to Michael understanding that innovation wasn't happening in conference rooms. It was happening in spare bedrooms, garage workshops, and weekend maker spaces, created by people who'd stopped waiting for permission to solve problems they understood better than anyone else. 6 months after signing the licensing agreement, I was invited to speak at the International Innovation Summit, the same conference where Marcus Chen had given a keynote the previous year about fostering breakthrough thinking in corporate environments. My presentation was titled, The Innovation Underground, How Real Breakthrough Happens. I talked about spare bedroom laboratories, rejected ideas that became patents, and the difference between innovation theater and intellectual property creation. In the audience, I spotted Jennifer Walsh taking notes. After my talk, she approached with something I'd never seen from her before, genuine humility. Sophia, I owe you an apology, she said. Not just for what I said 18 months ago, but for not understanding what innovation actually requires. We were measuring the wrong things, rewarding the wrong behaviors, missing the real work happening right under our noses. She paused, looking uncomfortable with her own honesty. Would you be willing to help us redesign our innovation programs? Actually design them, not just rebrand them. I agreed, on one condition. The new programs would be measured by one metric. Only successful patent applications. Not ideas, not presentations, not brainstorming sessions. Intellectual property that passed USPTO scrutiny and created defensible competitive advantages. Within a year, our company went from 0 approved patents to 12. Not because we changed our hiring practices or innovation budget, but because we started recognizing and supporting the real innovators who'd been there all along. The Ghost Innovation Network grew too. What started as 5 people meeting in a coffee shop became a foundation that provides patent application support, technical mentorship, and legal resources for individual inventors working in corporate environments. We still meet monthly. But now we meet in the conference room at my company, with full executive support and a budget for prototype development. The spare bedroom laboratories still exist, but they're no longer secret. Innovation, it turns out, was never the problem. Recognition was the problem. And once you solve that, everything else follows. 3 years later, I received an unexpected email. It was from Tyler, who'd left our company to join a startup focused on AI-driven industrial solutions. He was writing to thank me, but not for the reasons I expected. Sophia, his message read, the most important thing you taught me wasn't about back-end architecture or neural networks. It was that innovation isn't about having the right ideas in the right meetings. It's about having the persistence to prove your ideas work, even when no one believes they matter. He'd just received approval for his first patent, a machine learning system for optimizing manufacturing workflows. Built in his spare time, funded with personal savings, developed in a spare bedroom that probably looked a lot like mine used. The cycle continues. Not because people like Tyler and me are particularly special, but because real innovation has always happened this way. In quiet spaces, during personal time, by individuals who understand that breakthrough thinking requires more than brainstorming sessions and innovation budgets. It requires the willingness to build something that works, even when the people around you can't see its value yet. That's the real innovation. Not the technology itself, but the understanding that the best ideas aren't born in conference rooms. They're born in the spaces between what exists and what's possible, built by people who refuse to wait for permission to solve problems they know how to fix. Patent #11-234-567 was just the beginning. The real breakthrough was realizing that innovation belongs to the innovators, not the institutions that employ them, and once you understand that, everything changes. Looking for more? We've got 2 amazing stories ready for you right on screen. If this one touched you, these are absolutely worth your time. Click to watch them now. And hey, subscribe and hit that bell to never miss our latest uploads.